They say your first real step doesn't happen when you leave your house. It happens when you leave your fear behind. I didn't plan on today being the day. I didn't wake up thinking, this is it, I'm stepping out in my feminine skin. But the moment I saw my reflection, something in me cracked open. Not fear, not panic, not doubt, but recognition to finally be myself. But I didn't stop. I didn't look twice, because the moment I saw myself, I also saw something else. Someone behind me. And for a second, I thought my entire secret had been exposed. This moment didn't happen the way you think. Because before anyone saw me as myself, someone almost stopped me from stepping out. And the journey to that grocery store started hours earlier in the silence of my bedroom, with a decision I didn't even know I was making. That morning, I woke up feeling restless, unsettled, like something unfinished was sitting on my chest, waiting for attention. You know that feeling when your body is awake but your soul is still searching for something? That was me. It was supposed to be a normal day. Grocery shopping, maybe some errands, nothing special. I had planned to go out in boy mode, the way I always did, safe, invisible, comfortable in the armor of expectation. But while I was getting dressed, my eyes fell on something. The black sleeveless dress. It was hanging quietly on the chair near my closet, almost forgotten. The dress wasn't new. I'd had it for months. But today, it felt like it was calling me. Like it had been waiting patiently for this exact morning. I tried to ignore it. I pulled on my usual clothes, jeans, a plain shirt, the uniform of blending in. But my eyes kept drifting back to that dress. It wasn't screaming at me. It was whispering, persistent, gentle. I found myself standing in front of the mirror, the dress in my hands. Just for a minute, I told myself. Just to see, just to experiment. There's no harm in trying it on. I'm not actually going anywhere like this. I slipped it over my head. The fabric brushed against my skin, cool and soft. I reached behind and pulled the zipper up slowly, carefully, and as it closed, something happened. The dress didn't just fit my body, it fit my breathing. It fit the version of myself I'd been hiding for so long. I wasn't choosing an outfit. I was choosing a version of myself I wasn't sure the world was ready for. I stood there, staring at my reflection, and then I reached for the light brown wig with soft highlights. Natural, not dramatic, just me. I applied makeup. Nothing heavy, nothing theatrical, just enough to feel like I was meeting myself for the first time. Black round-toe shoes completed the look. And when I finally stepped back and looked at the lady in the mirror, I didn't see an attempt. I didn't see a costume. I saw a possibility. A version of me that had been waiting her whole life to be seen. I thought, maybe today. Maybe this is the day I actually do it. And then my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a message from a friend. Simple, random, innocent. Are you going out today? My heart stopped. Did they see me? Did someone come to the door? Did they somehow know? The paranoia rushed in like cold water. I felt exposed, caught, like I'd been spotted doing something forbidden. My hands moved to the wig. I almost pulled it off. This was a mistake. This was too much. Too fast. Too risky. For a moment, I nearly convinced myself that the world was safer when it couldn't see me. But then I stopped. Because the fear wasn't about the message. It wasn't about my friend. It wasn't even about being seen. It was about the weight of all the moments I almost stepped into my true self but didn't. All the times I stood at the edge and backed out. All the dresses I bought but never wore. All the reflections I saw and then immediately hid from. I took a deep breath. My hands steadied. I set the phone down without responding. And I said to myself, out loud, like a vow, not today. Today, I walk out as me. The phone stayed silent. The decision was made. My heart was racing as I reached the door. My hand was shaking on the doorknob. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, trying to gather the courage to turn it. I had a brief flashback to the last time I tried to step out. I'd made it halfway down the hallway before I turned back, convinced that the world wasn't ready. Convinced that I wasn't ready, but this time I didn't turn back. I opened the door. The sunlight hit my skin, warm and immediate. The breeze touched my legs, and I felt the fabric of the dress move against my body. It was such a simple thing, feeling the air on my legs. But in that moment, it felt revolutionary. I took my first step outside. Then another. And another. The walk to the grocery store was about 10 minutes. Usually it's nothing, a mindless journey. But today, every step felt significant. Every person who passed by felt like a test. Would they stare? Would they whisper? Would they know? Something strange happened. Nobody stared. Nobody whispered. A few people passed me on the sidewalk and they smiled politely. Another brushed past me and quietly said, "Sorry," without even looking twice. Tiny, ordinary moments, but each one felt like its own quiet victory. I started to breathe a little easier, but the real test was still ahead. The walk to the grocery store wasn't the moment I knew. That moment happened inside, in the fruit aisle, because of a stranger who had no idea what their words would do to me. The automatic door slid open with a soft whoosh, and I stepped inside. The store seemed unusually bright. The fluorescent lights felt almost blinding after the natural sunlight outside. I felt eyes everywhere, on the back of my neck, on my shoulders, on my dress. But when I glanced around, nobody was looking at me. Nobody at all. I walked past the front counter, trying to look casual, trying to look like I belonged. The cashier glanced up from her register, and for a split second our eyes met. She smiled. "Good afternoon, ma'am." "Ma'am." I felt a warmth in my chest. I didn't have a name for her, something like validation, wrapped in disbelief. My stomach flipped. My breath caught. I almost looked behind me to see who she was talking to. But there was nobody behind me. She was talking to me. I nodded, trying to keep my face neutral, and managed a quiet "afternoon." I moved deeper into the store, my heart pounding in my chest. Did she really just call me ma'am? Did I imagine it? Did she hesitate before saying it? But no, there was no hesitation. It was casual, automatic. The way she would greet any other woman walking into the store on a Friday afternoon. I grabbed a shopping basket, more to give my hands something to do than because I needed it, and headed toward the produce section. And that's when everything changed. I was standing in front of the apple display, reaching for a bag, when another woman reached for the same spot at the exact same time. Our hands almost touched. She pulled back and smiled warmly at me. "Oh, you go ahead, dear." Dear. She looked at me the same way she'd look at any other woman in the aisle, like I was just another person buying groceries on a Friday afternoon. I mumbled, "Thank you," still processing what had just happened. I reached for the apples, and she moved to the oranges beside me. I thought that was it. A brief, polite exchange, the kind that happens 100 times a day in grocery stores around the world. But then something unexpected happened. She leaned toward me, just slightly, and said, "I love your dress. It's so simple but elegant." It wasn't the compliment that broke me. It was the ease of it, the normalcy, as if the universe had always known me this way. I froze. My hand was still holding the bag of apples. I looked at her, trying to find the catch, trying to see if there was anything behind the compliment. Pity, curiosity, performance. But there was nothing. Just genuine warmth. Just a woman complimenting another woman's dress. I managed to smile. "Thank you. That's really kind." She nodded, gave me one more warm smile, and walked away, pushing her cart toward the next aisle. And I stood there, holding a bag of apples, my heart full of something I haven't felt in years. Not approval, not tolerance, not acceptance, even belonging. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged in my own skin. In this body. In this dress. In this moment. Not as someone performing femininity, not as someone trying to pass, but as someone simply existing, naturally, without question. And I thought, this is what it feels like. This is what I've been missing. But the moment that sealed everything, that confirmed beyond any doubt that I wasn't imagining this, wasn't from a stranger. It was from someone I never expected to see. I moved toward the dairy section, still floating from the encounter in the fruit aisle, when I heard a familiar voice. My entire body went cold. I froze, mid-step, and my first instinct was to turn around and leave. Immediately. Before they saw me. It was someone from my neighborhood. Someone who has only ever seen me in my masculine mode. Someone who knows me, not well, but enough. Enough to recognize me. Enough to know. My brain screamed at me to hide, to disappear, to run. But before I could move, they called out, "Excuse me, miss. Do you know if they've restocked the yogurt here?" Miss. I stood there, frozen, staring at the shelves in front of me. They didn't recognize me. Not even close. They were standing 3 feet away from me, asking me a question, looking right at me, and they had no idea who I was. I turned slowly, carefully, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm not sure. I think they restock in the mornings. They smiled, polite and grateful. Thanks so much. Have a great day. And they walked away. Just like that. I stood there, alone in the dairy aisle, trying to process what had just happened. This person had seen me dozens of times. We'd exchanged hellos in the hallway. We'd made small talk about the weather. And they just looked right at me, and saw a woman. Not a man in a dress, not someone trying to pass. Just a woman buying groceries on a Friday afternoon. I wasn't pretending, I wasn't performing, I wasn't hoping to pass. I was simply myself. And the world read me exactly that way. I realized in that moment that I had crossed a line I didn't even know existed. A line between trying to be seen and actually being seen. Between wanting to belong and finally belonging. I grabbed a carton of milk, not because I needed it, but because I needed to do something normal, something grounding, something that reminded me that I was still here, still standing, still real. And then I headed to the checkout. The line at the checkout was short, just 2 people ahead of me. I stood there, basket in hand, feeling strangely calm. The panic was gone. The fear was gone. In its place was something quiet and steady. When it was my turn, I placed my items on the conveyor belt. The cashier, a young lady, maybe in her early 20s, scanned each item with practiced efficiency. She glanced up at me and smiled. "Did you find everything you needed today, ma'am?" "Ma'am?" Again. I nodded, my voice steady now. "Yes, thank you." She bagged my items, her movements quick and casual. She handed me the receipt, smiled, and said, "Have a great day." "You too." I walked toward the exit, groceries in hand, and as the automatic doors slid open, I realized something. Not one double take, not one confused stare, not one moment of hesitation. I walked out of that store with my groceries. But more importantly, I walked out with myself, the version of me I'd been hiding, the version of me I'd been afraid to show, the version of me that had been waiting, patiently, for this exact moment. I sat at home later that evening, the groceries still sitting on the counter, forgotten. I was still wearing the dress. I hadn't changed. I didn't want to. Not yet. I replayed the entire experience in my mind, every word, every glance, every moment. No fear, no shame, no panic, just quiet joy. For the first time in my life, I finally stepped into my feminine skin. And the world didn't fall apart. The world didn't stop. The world didn't reject me. In fact, the world made space for me without question, without hesitation, without doubt. I stood in front of the mirror again, the same mirror I'd stood in front of that morning, and I looked at the woman staring back at me. She wasn't a possibility anymore. She was real. She was here. She was me. And I realized something that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. For the first time in my life, I wasn't performing. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't hoping to pass. I was simply me, and the world read me exactly that way. Acceptance doesn't always come from others. Sometimes it begins the moment you finally accept the reflection that's been waiting for you. The reflection that's been knocking on the door, asking to be let in. The reflection that's been patient, even when you weren't ready. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Share your country and time in the comments below, and tell me, when was the first time you felt truly seen? When was the moment you finally stepped into your own skin? And if this story finds you before your moment arrives, take it as a sign that your time is closer than you think. Thank you for being here, thank you for listening, and thank you for seeing me. Until next time, the end. The Gender Diary exists to light that path with shared stories. Whether you found connection in this narrative, you're on your own journey of gender exploration, or you're here seeking understanding, your subscription fuels our mission. Every subscriber empowers us to keep illuminating these authentic experiences for our community. Kindly drop a comment below. Your voice adds to the tapestry of experiences that makes this space meaningful. Until our next story unfolds.